start using ChatGPT if you are not already. I think it's a very powerful tool. And at first, it was kind of like, is this like a gimmick? Not a gimmick. Let me explain. Into my dungeon.
Workout.
I don't know if you can hear that. Listen very closely. Yep. Mm, yeah. So I have some kind of water leak, and this what I noticed was I was hearing a lot of water running, like all day long. Every time I went in the basement, I'm hearing the sound of water running. Anytime I'm near any plumbing, basically. So in the basement, when I'm in the utility room, even some parts of one of the apartments. I guess anywhere, anytime I'm near any piping, um, I hear it. I'm hearing either like a, which is spookily sounding kind of like gas, but I don't smell any gas. And I know there's a sound. There's a couple of different sounds you hear with pipes, right? You hear that hiss sound. I don't know if that's like water pressure, I guess, or something. I don't know. This is not my forte, obviously. But then there's also the sound of the water itself. You can hear the sound of water like running or dripping or whatever. That's water like physically going through the pipes. So that sound that I hear in some pipes, again, I don't smell any gas, so I'm thinking that's like, I don't know what the proper word to describe, but I think it's somehow pressure related. Um, and yeah, it's also the sound, I think, similar to the sound that you hear when you turn the faucet, right? You go to the sink and you turn the faucet and you hear that sound. And then, of course, you hear the water running down. But, anyways, I kept hearing that sound. It seemed like it was all the time. My water heater was also, it seemed to be on all the time. I'm just hearing the sound of what I presume to be, I guess, like a water pump, because it doesn't sound like the blower, because it's natural gas. Um, I'm pretty sure it's natural gas, but it has an electric. There's an electric component to it as well. So I guess that's. I'm not sure. I mean, it might be like those. What are those stoves that are? It's a flame as opposed to an element, but then there's an electric component to it. So maybe the the source of the flame, the spark, I guess, is electrical. I don't know. All I know is I'm pretty sure that heater is connected to gas, but it's also needs to be plugged into the wall because there's a plug there as well. And I keep hearing the sound of what sounds like a water pump to me running. So I'm just like something's going on. I'm thinking, I got these squatters two levels above me right now, and I'm like, are they trying to screw me because I'm responsible for the water, right? So all 4 units, all their water that they're using, I'm paying for it, right? I know we have a lot of progressive TYT fans that think that running a house, it's free and it's just I'm just cashing checks. There's a lot of costs associated, so when you don't get your rent, it can be very very bad. Um, Nonetheless, I try to get a plumber out here. Plumber stood me up, then lied and said they knocked on the door. Ring camera said otherwise. I got a ton of cameras, so it's not like my camera just happened to miss it. I mean, if I don't get you at the door, I'm gonna get you on the roof. If I don't get you at the roof, I'm gonna get you a couple spots on the building front wall, right? So no one definitely um, knocked on the door. Maybe knocked on the wrong door, but regardless, I need to figure out what's going on because this could be crazy. It could be water running all day long. How much water is that going to be? How much is that going to cost me? Right? It's been doing this for like a week now. So I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to get destroyed with yet another bill piling up. And I got other bills. I got an electric bill that's like months behind. Water bill months behind. Like everything's falling behind because again, not getting any rent. So um, I didn't need another bill, and I knew this is just the kind of thing that these guys might do to try to screw with me. So anyway, ChatGPT, something I thought was a gimmick, and then since then I started playing around with it. I've been using ChatGPT on a regular basis. I've done anything from having it draft my leases. I told them what kind of leases I wanted, what concerns I had, any particular rules. I give them the location, and in seconds, boom, there's your lease. Now, I would not trust just using that, but I can give that to my attorney as a draft and then have him complete it. But the bulk of the work is already done. Um, so I had it draft me. What is it called? Notice to quit, I think is the term. So if you got a tenant that's violating certain rules that are on the lease, you can't just like kick them out, right? The way that you're supposed to take action to address the violations is you. Now don't quote me exactly on this exact procedure, but this is generally how it goes. You got to let them know, hey, you're violating the lease, please stop. Um, I don't know if there's necessarily amount of times you needed to do that, but generally speaking, you let them know. And then if they're not responding, then you send them a notice to quit. So that's a formal legal letter that you get certified and sent to them that says, hey, you're violating the lease and I'm asking you to correct this behavior or action. Like, let's say, for example, they're keeping a bunch of trash on the porch, like this guy is. That's a violation of the lease based on clutter or something. I forget the terms, but you're not supposed to be doing that. So you can send a letter advising it's a violation of the lease, giving them 10 days to correct the action. So they have 10 days to go and correct it. And if they don't, then you can take them to court and you fulfilled your legal obligation by giving them 10 days to correct it. You didn't just jump in and say, hey, you violated the lease, now you have to get kicked out. No, you give them a chance to correct the behavior. They ignore you, you send the official legal thing, and then they have 10 days to correct it. So you're giving them their chance, right? You're giving them their their rights. These are their rights. They have a right to be, advised of the violation of the lease and given time to correct it, right? And then once you've given them their right, then you can exercise your right, which is to take legal action against them. So anyway, so I had to draft those letters, um, and I've used it for a lot of calculations. Um, I mean, you name it, any kind of calculation. I've asked it, but let me give you a real life scenario. So this, going back to this leak, right? So first of all, I didn't know where my main water line is, which is bad. I'm supposed to know that stuff, but it's just I'm like one guy. It's a big house. First time I've done anything like this, and obviously a lot of chaos has been going on. So there's a lot of stuff that I need to do that I haven't done. Right, I'm so behind. So that's one of the many things. I am not fully familiar with all the dynamics of this house. Right. So I went to ChatGPT and I asked ChatGPT to help me to find the main water line. So it gave me information in terms of what do you call it? I told it that I needed to find a main water line. I gave it the address of the house, um, and approximate age of the house, general description of the house. Um, and I asked it, how can I find the main water line? So it gave me, you know, some tips. It said in the basement or possibly in the utility room. I also described some of the things that I saw. So it's really crazy because it's like I'm talking to a person, right? Because I do voice to text. So I just speak to the phone and it gives the text, and then I send it to ChatGPT. So I speak as if I'm talking to a professional, and describe the house, location. I say in the utility room, I see there's a blue valve. I see there's a lever with a red thing on the top, and there's a it's a 1 inch, half inch, half inch, half inch diameter pipe, and there's a 2 inch diameter pipe. There's a 12-inch diameter PVC. There's a 2 inch diameter PVC. And I tell it where it is. So I give it the good details of like how the house is set up, and it advises me that potentially it's the pipes in the basement, or it's the pipe in the utility room with the blue knob. So it literally references what I told it. It said that blue knob might be it. It also referenced that in warmer climates, what did I say? In warmer climates or colder climates, one of the two, it says that the main water line could actually be buried, and there might be like a box, a metal box that you'll see sticking out of the ground. Um, so a lot of information, and based on that, I ran through and I looked into different locations, and I kind of honed in on where most likely the main water line is. And I think it's in a utility room. That's where I saw a lot of these brass pipes. I feel like it's a little less than an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch. That might make sense. I think 3/4 of an inch brass pipes. Wasn't sure what's in those pipes, but I started honing in on those. And I kept following them and seeing where they're going. Just logical deduction. I'm looking at these lines feeding across the water heater, and one goes into the water heater. I see them going across the roof into the first floor apartment. And then at one point, I follow it from there's a pipe in the utility room, and I follow it to this line that's close to the ground, and then I see this meter, and then I say, okay, what kind of meter is this? And I see this red thing spinning around, and I see the word gallons on it, and I say, okay, gallons, right? Sounds like water. It's got the same kind of piping as I saw in the other section. Um, so I I do an image search on the meter, and I get the name of the meter. So it's a census brass water meter, ECR something, 3/4 thousand gallon, I believe. So now that I've found what I'm pretty sure is the water meter, and I've identified the model of the water meter, now I go back to ChatGPT and I say, hey, I have a census, 1,000 gallon water meter, and I ask it to help me to calculate water usage, right? So basically, what I do is I I had taken a picture of it earlier, and you can see the reading on it, right? And then I took a picture 12 minutes later, and I got that reading. So then I went and I said 5 o'clock and in 10 seconds. I gave it the reading, the number on the meter, and then I said 5:14 and 38 seconds or whatever it is. And then I gave it the reading, and then I said, calculate the water usage. And I didn't even phrase it that way. What I said is I sort of prepared it for what I wanted. I said something like, "Help me calculate the water usage," um, and then I said, "I'm gonna give you two readings," but it understood what I was doing, right? And when I made the first reading, I just literally said time and the value, right? That's all I said. I didn't give it context. I said time and value, but it knew what I was doing. So it's like, thank you for the first reading. Now give me the second reading, and I can calculate the approximate water usage. So it's like it gets it, right? So I give it the second reading. It calculates 18 gallons. So 18 gallons. I didn't even think about that's a lot of gallons. I didn't even think about that's just in 12 minutes. So if I round it off to 20, 20, what was that, 12 minutes, 18 gallons. So let's make it 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 gallons, 10 minutes, 20 gallons. So twice the minutes is the gallons. So in 20 minutes, that's 40 gallons. In 60 minutes, that's 120 gallons. 120 gallons an hour. That is like 900 to 1,000 gallons in 8 hours. So that's 2,000 gallons a day, rough estimate. Now, ChatGPT would be pretty good at giving me a better estimate. I could easily have it extrapolate that. In fact, I'm going to do that right now and come back. It's going to be so quick. 18 gallons a day and 13,000 gallons a week is what ChatGPT just gave me. That is insane. 13,000 gallons of water in a week. 1,800 gallons a day. Now let me ask it what's normal. Um, so I think I'd calculated 1,800 gallons a day. So five, six, seven, eight. So potentially 300 gallons of waste a day. Not crazy, but um, not tiny either. I'm gonna take another reading this evening and definitely in the morning to see if I can get a better estimate because obviously the usage is going to change throughout the day with actual consumption versus whatever leak is going on. Um, but very, very helpful in doing the calculation. Also, I had questions about doing the trim work, and I was able to just plain English ask questions and get suggestions. I had it run estimates. That's another great thing that it does. Run estimates on what the cost would be to replace the trim versus to strip the trim and paint it myself. And I asked it to give me a cost breakdown of what each thing costs, labor and materials. And it did the whole thing. It gave me an idea of, what I to expect, to be charged based on the area that I'm in and the kind of work required. I even made it specific to one of the guys said he has a rate of $50 an hour and he would do it with the second guy. So I said, two guys at $50 an hour, and it just quickly does the calculations and it's like, this amount of money for materials. It will take about 4 hours to get this job done. Um, and it was really, really helpful. It's like having an expert available to me to help me to consult with and get basic information. Um, so at least, you know, I have somewhat of a basis, in terms of when I'm speaking to the professionals. Like I have an idea of what to expect in terms of cost, in terms of what work is required. Good to see you, Danny. Um, so that was very, very helpful because I'm kind of like, I don't know how this stuff works. I don't know what's going to be involved. I got no idea what the cost is going to be. So they could tell me all kinds of numbers. Um, but I was able to at least get somewhat educated and very quickly just by asking the questions. For example, I was able to see which job would cost more and take more time and why. You can ask questions like, what are some potential difficulties? What's going to take the most time? What's the most difficult? Can I do this job myself? I mean, you name it. The best way I can describe ChatGPT is Google alive. Google is like a filing cabinet. For us older people, if you remember back in the day, you had the card catalog. So for younger people, just think of a file cabinet, right? They may not even deal with file cabinets, but you understand a file cabinet is, right? You have the letters on each one. The drawer, the first drawer is A, the next one is B, next one is C. I want information about a car. I go down to C, and then I open the C, and then there's like C A, CO, whatever. Like it's alphabetical, right? And I got to go through all of this until I get to car. Then there's different types of cars, and then finally I get to something that's most relevant. Then I take it out. So I spend all this time getting to that drawer, getting to that folder. Then I have to actually take it out, open it up, and read through it, scan through it, and try to find the part of it that's relevant, and then interpret it, digest it, and try to sort of, process it in a way that's relevant to what you're trying to find out. Right? That's a dead thing. It's an inanimate object, right? That you have to go and do all this work, right? Um, and that's kind of like the real life Google, right? Google, you have to go and go to Google and type in the word, and then the links come up, and you got to go down to which one is most relevant. You think you go in this one, it might be good, it might not be good, and you go somewhere else, and you're digging and you're digging and you're digging, and then even when you find it, it's not just laid out to you exactly, the way you want it or what you're looking for. You have to go through all the information, comprehend it, and locate the most relevant. But imagine if Google was alive, right? So instead of you doing all that work, you just say to Google, hey, I'm trying to decide on whether I should do replacing the trim or stripping the trim and painting it. Give me an idea of the cost of doing this and break down the labor costs and all the work that's required and compare it to this alternative and advise me in which one is a better option. Like I literally will speak to ChatGPT in that manner, right? And unlike with the Google search or the filing cabinet, I'm not digging and going through whatever. It's just simply spitting out what I asked for. It's like, hey, the cost of doing it this way will be this, and it's going to be based on 4 hours labor. You need this amount of material. The materials are going to cost this much. Da 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 da. Right? If you do it this method, it's going to be this amount of time, this amount of materials, whatever, whatever. And by the way, you might want to do the stripping because replacing it is going to potentially damage whatever, whatever. And because you have an older home, it could be complicated. You might damage things, so you might not want to do it yourself. You might want to get a professional. In a new home, it'd be easier. Like all this, giving me not only the relevant information, getting me straight to the point, straight to what exactly what I want. I don't want to be digging around. Answer my question, right? But also giving me advice in terms of, um, you know, extra information, stuff that you didn't necessarily ask about, right? It'll volunteer information like, you should be careful because of blah blah blah. If I'm asking about something that is potentially risky or dangerous, it might point that out and say, hey, you might you might want to consider hiring a professional because it could be risky. And you could say, hey, why is it risky? What makes it risky? And it could say, well, a couple of things can happen. You can have a fire because of blah blah blah. You can da 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 da, right? I mean, you can basically, it's like speaking to Google, or another analogy that's much more closer to what we have now versus what ChatGPT brings is, how you can go into Google and in the search bar just say something like 1,000 times 55, like literally just write 1,000 times 55. And yes, you still get links, but before the links, Google understands that you're asking for a calculation to be done, and it will automatically do the calculation and stick it right on the top. Not links and back and forth and whatever, whatever. And is this page good? No, straight up, you asked 1,000 times 55, and the answer is, whatever the number is, right? But it only does it for simple things. You might say, what's the current time in China? And it might give you the time in China plus the links, right? But the answer is above. So certain basic things Google will, that was like beta, ChatGPT beta in a way, right? That was our first experiencing of what ChatGPT is. But ChatGPT is that on steroids, on steroids, on steroids. I mean, it completely blows that away because, again, those instant answers were always very, very limited on certain things, and there's no dialogue, right? If you say 1,000 times 55 and it gives you a number, you can't then say, a question about it, or what's the best way to calculate it myself, or is there a way that I could do an Excel formula that does the same calculation? Like you can't. There's no conversation, right? So you only get a limited amount of things where Google will answer you and give you direct answers, right? And on top of that, there's no dialogue. It's you type in a math formula, you get an answer. You want to do another math formula? Fine, put it in, it'll get an answer for that too. but it's not going to engage with you. Google is not going to engage. It's not going to explain how it did the calculation or why it did the calculation, or how you could do it with an Excel spreadsheet, or you can't say to Google, you ask the calculation, it gives the answer. You can't say, hey, how can I write a Python program that does the calculation for me, right? How can I write an Excel macro that does these calculations because I want to do a bunch of calculations like this? You can't do that. There's no dialogue. You ask something, you get an answer. Bye. Have a nice day. You have another question about another completely different thing? Great, ask it. Now, ChatGPT takes the entire Google experience, right? Because Google, you can ask about all kinds of things and you get all these links and pages and whatever. But convert that to the Google, I don't know what that feature is called. I'm going to call it instant answers, right? I'm just making that up. Take the entire Google and make it the instant answer formula, but make it dialogue based, right? Where you can engage and ask questions, learn more, right? You can even make corrections. Like it may give you something that's incorrect and you say, hey, that's wrong because such and such, because sometimes it makes mistakes. It's literally the experience. It's literally like, right, the experience of talking to a human that happens to know just about everything in a chat format, right? So imagine you had this friend who's actual know-it-all, almost know-it-all, doesn't know every single thing, makes mistakes here and there, but beyond brilliant person, right? Android, almost, right? And you have their phone number and you guys communicate via text. That is ChatGPT, right? So you can speak very, very casually, very directly. You can ask questions, you can engage, you can push back on things. ChatGPT is not a gimmick. ChatGPT is a very powerful tool, and I highly recommend that every single one of you guys check it out and see what it can do for you. And I think treat it like this again, like a person who's a know-it-all, not in a negative way. That's an actual legit know-it-all, right? So ask it about your sex life, your family relations, your taxes, your do-it-yourself project around the home, your business ideas, your investment ideas, information about the world or political stuff, definitions of words. Someone's misusing a word you think, ask it about that. Is this the proper way to use this particular word? Math questions, science questions. Ask it about code. Have it examine your code. Have it write code for you. I mean, the sky is the limit. Not literally, though. So pretty amazing. Even driving techniques. I mean, it's like, again, you name it. There's something you want to know or understand, ask ChatGPT. Just know it's not 100% accurate. So you still have to use your brain. You still have to pay attention. You can't take your hands off the wheel and let ChatGPT drive you around, because occasionally it's going to miss a stop sign, right? It's going to miss a stoplight and it's going to blow through, and you're gonna hit someone. You're gonna die, right? So trust it, but pay attention, right? Just like how I had the Honda CRV, I think it's called, their SUV, really good. I forgot what the terminology, but not the driverless thing. You know what I'm talking about, like the self-driving stuff. Really, really good. Really, really reliable and consistent. Except every once in a while it misses something. So you can reliably trust it to get it right. I would say 98% of the time, maybe 99, 98, somewhere around there, really, really high. So you can have a lot of confidence that it's going to see a car and slow down. The stuff that it's designed to do, it's going to do it very well in terms of steering the wheel and braking and accelerating, right? But every once in a while, you need to be paying attention and recognize, hey, guy, you missed that car and you have to hit the brakes yourself. You missed this thing and you have to grab the wheel or whatever. That is ChatGPT, right? Very, very consistent. It can get you a lot of information, very helpful. It can help you in your business. I mean, you name it. But every once in a while, it misses a stop sign. right? So just be warned. Um, anyway, Danny, thanks for joining in. Seems like I'm late. Could you say me in advance when you do live videos? I don't know how to do that. I don't really have a way to consistently communicate with you guys. I mean, in theory, post on my community tab, but just like everything on YouTube, it's random whether you might see it, not see it, when you see it. Do you see it right away? Do you see it 5 minutes away, an hour away? Who the hell knows? It's YouTube, all right? It is YouTube, a broken platform. More than 5 years ago, I got into the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, and YouTube kept on recommending me more crazy conspiracy theories. Guess that shows it wasn't a threat to the elites. I guess not. I guess not. Um, yeah, it's classic, man. It's just amazing. It just never surprises me, you know, again, like my video from earlier, how gullible, people can be, where again, you can have someone who is, very, very successful on a major mainstream media platform and they think that they're a voice of the people. You look at a YouTuber who's on here supposedly giving the truth that they don't want you to know, yet they have like 1 million subscribers and their channel is blowing up and all these subscribers. I mean, it's just for you to think some, real, you know, dark conspiracy, this is an anti-conservative platform and it's a liberal thing and they're pushing an agenda or whatever, and then also believe that these people that have all this power, which they do to control stuff, and they do have a lot of power, and they want to push an agenda, that they would ever let someone who's a real truth teller be blowing up on the same platform. It's just so bizarre. I just don't understand it. How people can think this way. People just believe what they want to believe, man. It just doesn't make any sense. If YouTube is really, I mean, it's a garbage company, but if they were really as evil and conspiratorial and trying to push agendas or whatever, no one who is any threat to them, who's exposing them or exposing their agenda, would ever be successful. I mean, random people get banned every day, not given a reason why they're banned. Like, you think that they would let you sit here and blow up? They got so many tools that they can shadow ban you, that they can just delete your channel. They can, aggressively moderate your channel and find stuff that, oh, you violated this rule. And it wouldn't be surprising. Everyone's used to just like random people getting shut down for random reasons and they don't get an answer. It's a normal thing, right? So if they were really this deep, dark, shadow, whatever, right, that people point them out to be, no way would anyone who's any threat be successful. They would shut you down so much, and even you, the content creator, would have no idea because they could easily, slowly turn you down over time. Um, just make it so that some of your videos just don't do as well as the others, and you're like, okay, maybe those topics aren't very popular, but then it starts growing and there's more videos that don't do as well. Not recommending your videos, I mean, there's so many different ways. I mean, if they really wanted to, they could do it and no one would be the wiser. So if you see people that you think are blowing up, exposing whatever, and they're blowing up, every video is getting tons of views. I don't know, man. Something ain't right. Something ain't right. Anyway, Chat GPT, check it out. Check it out. Um, all right, Danny. Thanks for joining in. Alex Jones would have killed a long time. Alex Jones, the Bohemian Grove guy. I'll never. You know what's interesting? In, I mean, there's other reasons to have photographic memory, but I wish I had photographic memory to remember vividly all of my exposure to, for example, people like Alex Jones before I knew anything about anything, right? So at a time where I wasn't into politics, I didn't know anything about, I mean, most of my life, I didn't know what conservative meant. I mean, I've heard it, but I didn't know what conservative meant. I didn't know what liberal meant. I didn't know what progressive. I didn't know any of this stuff, right? I just knew that politics was a joke in this country. I figured both parties were basically trash and just lying to us and manipulating us. Like that was my view from the outside looking in. Like these supposed political experts, unlike myself, they had bought into parts of this stuff, right? They used to like Obama, now they hate Obama. They used to like Bernie, now they hate Bernie. They used to be an AOC fan, now they hate AOC. They used to be a Democrat, now they're not a Democrat anymore. They used to be a Republican. I had rejected it all, and that's with me not even being really informed, just from the outside looking in, doing my own analysis of what I'm seeing on the news and what they're talking about. It just all seems so shady and dishonest and manipulative, and that was my view. So I just rejected it all. And then when I started getting politically activated, um, I guess probably after Trump, I guess. Trump came in and things started going off the rails, and I just wanted to understand like what was really happening. Started paying attention, and I started learning. That's when I discovered, progressivism and liberal and conservative and all this kind of stuff. But point being, I saw Alex Jones videos before I knew any of this stuff. So I didn't know who Alex Jones was. I didn't know he was a conservative. Didn't know what, I didn't have the context. He was just a guy on YouTube, and he was exposing some dark stuff. And he went up to the Bohemian Grove, and he was like, "Look what they're doing, and they're worshiping Satan." And I was just like, "Whoa!" I mean, sure looks like they're worshiping Satan, you know. I mean, now that I know much more, I mean, legit, um, it does appear that some of these elites are in some kind of cults or something like that. Cults and I guess cult is an appropriate word. Secret societies and stuff like that. So I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why Alex Jones can actually appeal to some people that you would regard as more rational types, right? You think just the real wacko types are watching Alex Jones, but then you look at some people who have reasonable points of views on other things, and they seem to like have some respect for him, and that's why. Because I mean, you look at him doing the Bohemian Grove thing, and I mean, my assessment now, after the fact, now knowing what I know, having really no respect for Alex Jones, now I know what he's about. I mean, again, I think he really was exposing some like really freaky stuff that some of these elites were up to. Um, were they actually worshiping Satan? Some of these guys, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but not necessarily. I mean, you have people in this country with all kinds of crazy religious beliefs, right? I mean, we normalize certain religions, right? But I mean, if you really look at some of these, normalized religions objectively, and you can see a lot of it's really bizarre, right? But because they've been normalized, we look at it as like, that's not cultish at all. That's a normal thing, right? But then you look at something like Satanism or Wicca, was it Wicca or Wiccan, and you're like, oh, that's cult stuff, like you know what I mean? But again, we have normalized a lot of bizarre sort of religious ideas. So the idea that elites, there are elites in this country that have adopted an alternative sort of, bizarre culty type thing, right? Which main difference is that their beliefs are unorthodox or not normalized, right? But when you look at it objectively, you're like, okay, this normalized religious belief got a lot of crazy stuff. You're like, oh, whoa, whoa, you believe this, man, right? And you look at the not the elite stuff, the satanic whatever Bohemian Grove stuff, and you're like, oh, that's right. So you can have a similar objective look at it and say, man, you guys are nuts. You guys with the normalized beliefs, you're nuts, and you guys with this, shadowy cult stuff, you know, officially designated as cult stuff, like, oh, you. This is out there, right? So when you look at it that way, it's very believable that elites could be, like doing some kind of satanic worship or whatever. Because again, millions and millions of Americans have beliefs that are, in my view, just as bizarre. Again, the main difference is that we've normalized certain religions, right? Certain cult like beliefs and behaviors have been normalized. It's just like if I'm in a place in some, some I don't even know where the really bad areas in Africa, some of those countries where, it's normal to have like a teenager who's like a murderer, like going out there and with machetes and all this kind of stuff. I mean, some of the most brutal countries in Africa, in a place like that, a kid chopping up people with machetes, is not quite what it would be here. Here it's like, oh my goodness, this guy's sick. Oh, lock him up. Over there, he's a soldier, right? He's a soldier and he's protecting his whatever designation they use. So same thing here. Stuff that outside looking in objectively seems to be bizarre. Most people just look at it as like it's normal because it's normalized, right? But you start worshiping Satan or some kind of idols or whatever these elites were doing, and say, "Oh man, these people they're out there." Gotta love it. Perspective. Gotta love it. Um, Sort of a cult, but satanic goes too far. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know that satanic. Well, it depends on what they're doing, right? Are you sacrificing people? Even though, I mean, you look at some of the normalized religions and sacrifice is part of it, right? Hopefully they don't really do that anymore, but it's part of the history, right? The idea of sacrificing humans, right? There are normalized religions that have a history of that, right? Making sacrifice of your children and things like that to a deity. So, I mean, the only difference I would say is, I mean, I'm getting out of my realm here, but I would be more inclined to believe a modern satanic group doing an actual like, uh, um, blood sacrifice type thing than I would the normalized religions. The normalized religions, I would like to think that that kind of conduct is just historical in their holy books, but I wouldn't be really surprised if I learned that some of these like satanic religions, like some of them, not all of them, there might be some groups out there that literally like maybe sacrifice a baby or maybe they do animal sacrifice, right? Because just like how with the other religions, it's the stuff is really in their books, but they don't do it now. But they might do representations of it. Because, for example, communion, right? You're drinking the blood of Christ, type of things. So that's like you're like drinking blood, but it's wine or grape juice, right? So I could see a modern satanic cult similarly. They may have religious texts that talk about, making blood sacrifice, where it's like you're sacrificing a child or a human, otherwise to Satan. But instead of doing that, the modern one might be you sacrifice a dog or a cat or a deer or something like that. Maybe even literally drink the blood of this animal. But the idea of sacrificing a living creature, but just not a human, I wouldn't be surprised. So basically, in general, what I'm getting at is I feel like these more officially cult religions or more bizarre types, I think, are more likely to be closer to their history than the normalized religions are. So normalized religions more, it's kind of a fairy tale type of thing in the religious text, versus the satanic cults might be so a lot of it's story, and some of the stuff they're doing now, it's a little bit closer to the story than the other normalized religions. Anyway, on that note, this is the Baby Channel. Debate in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well. Now I gotta go seal up the leaks. I fogged in here again, third time in 3 months. And then last night I see one of those big ass spiders coming in here. So I am going to do my thing got my gap and crack thing. Problem is, I think I've decided to do tile. Like I'm going crazy now. I started with the carpet. Let me just put a rug in here, and then I was like, let me do this the click lock or whatever it's called. See one of them right there. I said this is easy and it looks pretty good. I started putting it down, and it's all like I don't know. It's you step on it, it's moving around, and it's just it's cheap, right? So then I started thinking about tile, and then learning about it, and I said, you know what, I could probably do this. So relevance here is I don't want to just do the seal because the tiles are there. So what I'm thinking about doing, I don't like the idea because you see the tile over there is already separated. So it's easier for me to do there because I can stick my whatever it is, crowbar or whatever it is onto those tiles like I did. That's why it's broken. I did that. I can easily get under there and rip that up. But here, not so much because these tiles are all solid. Um, so that's the only thing. I'm not really sure. I mean, I might just try to rip into it, you know, get like a hammer or something. And if I can crack into like a corner, just bang the hell out of it. And then, like right here, right? Bang the hell out of that corner, tear it up, and then expose the floor underneath. Then I could, start getting underneath that tile and lifting it up, more sort of strategically instead of just trying to damage these tiles and potentially damage the concrete underneath. So that's what I'm gonna try to do. So I'll try to get in there and start moving these. So what I'll do is I'm gonna try to remove one row of these tiles, and then I will I will wow. I guess if I'm gonna do that, in theory, I should just try to lay one row of tiles as well. So I have ceramic tiles that I bought. Um, I don't know if I have any here, but whatever. Um, so I might want to try to do my first laying of tiles. Um, the only thing is I need to investigate the whole concept of leveling because this floor probably needs a little bit of work, and that's something I'm a little bit intimidated by. I'm not really sure how I'm going to make this floor level before I put the tiles down. So I don't know what I'm about to do, man. Um, I guess what I could start with is I could start by sealing the top of the baseboard and the gap. See the gap right over there? I could seal the gap, and then I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm gonna do with the bottom piece for now. I gotta figure that out. Um, yeah, I'm not sure. I need some time to think about what I'm gonna do. Anyway, on that note, Turd Burglar, good to see you, man. Chisel and hammer. Yeah, I don't know if I have a chisel. Um, Probably be helpful, but I don't think I have a chisel. Um, Good to see you, by the way. They have self-leveling, quick crete. You're going to have to remove the baseboard. Why do you think I have to remove the baseboard, man? You don't think I can take the tile out without removing the baseboard? I mean, I think about it. I might want to remove it anyway because I'd like to see what's behind the baseboard, what it looks like behind there. I think that's good to know. Maybe there's gaps behind there I can directly seal, right? Because if I'm sealing up the baseboard itself, but there's other gaps behind there that things can come in and then they walk somewhere else and find another way in. If I get to the source, what is the ultimate entrance from the outside to the inside, seal that up, right? Rather than sealing up, other things, so get them right where they're coming in. But yeah, I might consider removing the baseboard. Um, and then I could even maybe refinish it as well. I think that's what I might do. Remove the baseboard, clean it up, sand it down, put some putty on, do some repair work, right? See, like the the hole right there, seal up that stuff, get it in better condition than it is now, and bring it back in here looking nice and sweet, and and install it the proper way, right? With my nail gun, which just arrived, and some good adhesive. And then, like I said, I could seal up what's behind the baseboard as well before I reinstall it. So do it the right way rather than cutting corners. Anyway, I obviously have my work cut out for me. When you place the self-leveling quickcrete and put NRE tile, the baseboard will have to come out. When you place the self-leveling quickcrete and put the tile, will have to come out. Oh wow. Well, I'm glad you stopped by, man. That's certainly helpful. And then the other thing is I want to do the motion sensing lights. I gotta fix up this wall. This wall. This is the only original wall, right? We did all the other walls in here, and then finally the ceiling, which I gotta do the taping on that as well. But this is the original wall, right? That I had nothing to do with. So it's filthy. It's like dirty. It's like got ripples there. So I could clean it up and then sand it down and then paint it, make it look nice like the rest of the place. And do the same with the window frame, which is not in the best shape. But I don't know if I want to spend too much time on the window frame because a lot of that's going to be replaced eventually. So anyway, this live stream certainly took a turn to a different direction than what it started with. Chat GPT, and now we're doing DIY home construction featuring Turd Burglar. All right, guys, thanks for joining Danny. Thanks for joining Turd Burglar. Thanks for the tips. And until next time, this is Debate Me Channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Ciao. Ciao, 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 ciao.